Hello and welcome to episode 116 of Glitch Report. My name is GnittWitt. Thank you so much for stopping by, saying hi, kicking it with me today on the stream of dreams, the shows, and everything in between. You can find everything that I do over at my Linktree. That's linktree.com/GnittWitt, GnittWitt, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, all of that stuff in one convenient location. This is our first Wednesday show in a while, but this is also our first regular Wednesday show. The plan going forward is to do these episodes live at twitch.tv/GnittWitt every Wednesday morning, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I will have you know that the clock says 10:34 because I was late, but going forward, I commit to a brand of excellence that only this show and its host can deliver. We'll see if I can make good on that promise. But until then, we're going to continue to talk about video games and the latest news surrounding those games. Got a huge amount of news to get through today. Some stuff related to Bandai Namco, as well as Nobuo Uematsu, the Final Fantasy composer. Some Destiny news, some Xbox Cloud gaming news, some more Xbox news. Game Freak is in the news for good reasons or bad. We'll find out in a moment. Tomb Raider, Tetris, Metaphor, ReFantazio, you name it, we're talking about it. But we're going to kick things off with a news story about PlayStation. PlayStation is getting the band back together. Well, I should say, I don't know if PlayStation ever had like a band in the traditional sense. Well, what I'm really trying to say is that PlayStation The Concert is going to tour over 200 cities in 2025 as well as 2026. The show will debut in Dublin next April. Do they have all of the tour dates? I should have looked ahead of time to see if all the tour dates were available. They put out like a YouTube video among with other things saying, "Hey, we're going on tour." They've confirmed the April 2025 and the May 2025 dates at the moment, looking like a lot of Europe. Not that I'm like, hey, listen, Europe is a big place. There are a lot of people who live there. But as of right now, there is no North America or, Asia dates of any kind that I can see. You'd like to think PlayStation, being owned by the good people over at Sony, would maybe at least go and do a show in the motherland of Japan, but that is not the case right now. I don't know if that is going to, happen. All we have are a couple of dates. So here's the thing. These like orchestral video game concert things have grown in popularity. You can see a variety of shows. Final Fantasy is a really good one where it's like, hey, we're going to go to this show. It's going to be like orchestral renditions of people playing video game music. That seems to be what, Sony is going for, though they do have a little blurb here I'd like to read to you. With a state-of-the-art production, this show merges thrilling music, cutting-edge visual technology, and legendary video game titles into an unforgettable experience. The tour is going to kick off in Dublin in April 2025 before moving to the UK for 6 dates that will then tour the world for the remainder of 2025 and 2026. Now, if you're wondering, okay, well, what sort of video game music can I expect from the good folks over at PlayStation? Are we going to be just listening to Parappa the Rapper? And unfortunately, as of right now, there is no Parappa the Rapper, which is a disappointment for me, if anything else, because Parappa the Rapper has got bars, man. He's like, if you don't know who Parappa the Rapper is, he's a PlayStation 1 era video game mascot for PlayStation. He was in a rhythm game where you rap, and he's great. And unfortunately, this does not seem like that. They're going for, and I'm not trying to pick on Sony or anything like that, but they're maybe going for more of that hoity-toity, elevated high art-esque, cinematic orchestral experience, featuring such music originally composed by Gustavo Santana Olala, who did The Last of Us, the music from Horizon, the music from Ghost of Tsushima, and of course Bear McCreary, who did God of War. So that seems to be more of what they're going for. It's not like we're going to sit around and listen to, like, you know, the original Crash Bandicoot music, is, again, as much as I would like. And again, this is for a certain type of people. I just had some work colleagues were telling me about a work colleague was telling me about the Hans Zimmer concert that they just saw. And, you know, Hans Zimmer out there composing music for movies all day, every day, right? And then you go and you're like, oh, I'm going to listen to the Dark Knight soundtrack, you know, performed live. I'm going to listen to the Inception soundtrack and all of that stuff. And that stuff is really, really neat. I think I would be a little more interested in orchestral renditions of movie soundtracks, just because orchestral game soundtracks don't quite do it for me the same way something that's more electronic focused, something that's a little more rock or focused, or something that's a licensed soundtrack, for example. There are some really great music soundtracks, don't get me wrong. I just, when I look at this list, I'm not like, with the exception maybe of Ghost of Tsushima, I don't really like get all hot and bothered for the music that is said to be at this concert. But hey, PlayStation the concert, it's happening next year. It's going to be there to celebrate PlayStation's 30th anniversary, and you can go get your tickets today. Tickets are on sale now. By the time you've heard this, the tickets will be on sale. Bandai Namco. We don't talk a lot about Bandai Namco. They are the Tekken people. They're also the Pac-Man people. Those are the only two things they've ever made, is Pac-Man and Tekken. It's just dudes fighting, throwing each other into volcanoes, and then waka 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 waka. That's it. That's all they do. That's all they do. That's not true. They do a lot of things. But it seems like they're doing less things than ever before, because Bandai Namco has reportedly canceled several titles and is cutting its workforce. Now, they are doing, these are reports. They don't shoot the messenger. I'm getting this from Jordan Midler, who is working for Video Games Chronicles. As always, shout out to Video Games Chronicles. The report says that the company is pushing employees to leave rather than firing them. That's because they probably don't want to pay severance, which is never a good sign and is super gross in my opinion. But let's read on, shall we? This is coming from Bloomberg kind of ran with this originally. Citing sources familiar with the matter, the company is, quote, taking a traditionally Japanese approach to reducing staff and sending workers to rooms where they are given nothing to do, putting the pressure on them to leave voluntarily. If you've ever seen Slow Horses on Apple TV Plus, that's kind of the premise for Slow Horses. Except instead of being Japanese video game developers, they are the lowest of the low spies for like MI5, MI6, things like that. It's a decent show. Gary Oldman, tour de force from what I've seen of the show. Bandai Namco Studios has reportedly moved 200 workers to such rooms, leading to almost 100 resignations. Is this like Saw? Like, what is going on over at Bandai Namco? What could possibly be going on in those rooms where people don't want to get paid by the hour, check out, and go home? Then again, if they entered the video game development business in the hopes of making video games and then they sit around twiddling their thumbs, I can imagine that. But still, hey, you know, you do you. A representative of Bandai Namco told Bloomberg, quote, our decisions to discontinue games are based on comprehensive assessments of the situation. Some employees may need to wait a certain period of time before they are assigned their next project, but we do move forward with assignments as new projects emerge. There is no organization this is some sort of a Japanese term I am not familiar with, Odashi Beya at Bandai Namco Studios, designed to pressure people to leave voluntarily. So apparently this is maybe unique to Bandai Namco. It's a practice used by Japanese corporations to isolate employees by giving them no tasks in an effort to get them to leave their own of their own volition rather than let them go and receive severance. So okay, I could basically run a Japanese business. I know how things work. Now, Bandai's Namco's latest release is Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, which is a massive game. It's huge. If you don't know nothing about Dragon Ball, if you don't know nothing about Sparking Zero, that's fine. Let me tell you what's going on. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero has seen strong initial sales. The game was originally developed by Spike Chunsoft and has surpassed a total of 3 million units worldwide in 24 hours after its launch. Now, it could stop selling tomorrow, and would it be a huge, sales darling? I'll leave that up to the people over at Bandai Namco to decide, but 3 million units in 24 hours worldwide is pretty strong. As always, I hope everybody involved in these decision-making processes that is losing their jobs as a result lands on their feet. I think the idea of having people work in or not work in these like empty rooms or whatever they're doing is weird, and I don't know how Japanese culture works, so all I'll say is that it's weird and that I don't understand it, but it seems a little weird. I don't know how this made my list of topics. I thought I was done talking about this game, but XDefiant is in the news today, with the producer saying that there are no plans to shut the game down after Season 4. This is coming from Mark Rubin, who admits player numbers have fallen, but says Ubisoft is working on a recovery plan. Mark Rubin took to Twitter to say, to be crystal clear, there are no plans to shut down after Season 4. Okay. On Monday, a Twitter user by the name of Sean Weber, who calls himself a game developer who knows some people, claimed to have heard from multiple sources that XDefiant could close after its 4th season if Ubisoft fails to attract more players. I've literally been in meetings as of last week to discuss year 2 plans, said Rubin. But right now we are super focused on improving the technical experience, which includes netcode, and adding more content for seasons 3 and 4. We have done very little marketing, so yes, our numbers are down, but that is just to give the team the time to get the game in a better place before we do bigger spends on marketing to bring new players to the game and to bring back players that have left. It's the second time in a month that the developers over at Ubisoft San Francisco have denied claims that the free-to-play shooters' days could be numbered. No, the game is absolutely not dying, it said in September, following reports that there have been a sharp drop in interest in the live service game, contributing to a significant decline in Ubisoft share price. Now, I'm just going to say this. I'm kind of getting sick and tired of talking about like business numbers and, pie charts and line graphs and all that shit. What matters is the games. What matters is the people that make the games. And that's honestly about it. Maybe deciphering what lingo and marketing and business speak is being used to, sell you games or kind of justify the decisions made around games. But that's about it. I will, however, say XDefiant seems like such a nothing of a game that I don't know how it could impact much of Ubisoft's share prices in the first place. If I had to guess, a lot of the decline in share price is due to the fact that they spent way too much money making Skull and Bones, and people have forgotten about Skull and Bones. They made yet another Avatar game, and I don't know if the people who go watch Avatar movies actually care about playing games. They delayed Assassin's Creed Shadows, and they put out that Star Wars game that did not set the world on fire. So I feel like those are just a handful of things that probably had a bigger impact on the share price than XDefiant. That being said, they were working on XDefiant for a very long time. It did not set the world on fire. It is not a very good free-to-play game at all. So I'm not saying it is completely immune from contributing to Ubisoft's decline, but there are bigger fish to, like Skull and Bones. Who's talking about Skull and Bones? Right? Online game, you can play by yourself, you can play with other people, you do pirate stuff. Like, is that a game that's going to make it to season 4, 5, 6, or whatever? Right? It's a premium game, and you'd like to think that because people put at least full price into the game, or potentially full price into the game at launch, that Ubisoft owes it to those people to continue to develop and publish the, content for the game. But it's a rough go at it at Ubisoft, and I just think the rumors of XDefiant dying don't mean that XDefiant is doing great. In fact, it means that there's an easy chance that XDefiant could die sooner rather than later. Do I hope that happens? No, but also we are not too far away. We're like less than 10 days away from Black Ops 6 coming out. Black Ops 6 will be available on Game Pass Ultimate for free, meaning that there's even less of an incentive to play something like XDefiant, which is a pretty shameless Call of Duty knockoff despite being free to play. Oh, and on top of that, if you're going to play a free-to-play first-person shooter, there are better games out there than XDefiant. I'm not even like a big Destiny supporter at this point, and I would still say, yo, you're better off playing that than XDefiant. Warzone, whatever. Still better than XDefiant. All that is to say that I doubt they'll be able to convince me to get back into the game, but if anything were to change, you'll be the first to know. Speaking of Destiny, Destiny Rising has been announced. It is a mobile game from the good folks that made Diablo Immortal. I'm talking about your friends and mine at NetEase. Now, this is an all-new Destiny game set in an alternative universe. Alternative. Everyone's just listening to The Cure and My Chemical Romance and Sunny Day Real Estate and The Misfits. That's what they're doing over at Destiny Rising. Okay, no, but in all seriousness, this has been rumored for a long, long time. I think we even talked about it on this show. Destiny Rising has been a pretty poorly kept secret for the last couple of months, but it's official with NetEase announcing the mobile game. They announced that on Monday, with the first closed alpha beginning next month. So I looked at the trailer, and I mean, it sure looks like Destiny. Is it? I'm trying to confirm. Is it a third-person shooter? Because Destiny is a first-person game. Okay, a lot of this gameplay that they're showing is third-person. I don't know if that means it's going to be completely third-person. You can play first-person or whatnot. Though, if it's third-person, you'll be able to see your character. Better incentive for them to sell you skins, microtransactions in the sort. Something that Diablo Immortal is rotten with. Diablo 4 is also rotten with that stuff. But Rising has been confirmed to be a third-person shooter with all the PvP strikes and storyline content that you'd expect, but it is going to be set in an alternate Destiny timeline before the events of the previous game. So here's what I would kind of say is that there are people who really like the Destiny storyline and the lore and the world and the Traveler and all of that stuff. They're cool with it. I think it's neat, though I kind of fell off. That all being said, making it like separate from existing Destiny allows them to do some pretty interesting stuff if they wanted to. So unlike something like Diablo Immortal, I actually have a little bit more hope for Destiny Rising, something that is, just the way that this game has kind of presented itself has piqued my interest in a way that something like Diablo Immortal certainly has. Diablo Immortal, free to play, mobile, and on PC. It is rotten with the type of bullshit and microtransactions and purchases and all that stuff that you would expect. And I just don't think that game is that great, which is unfortunate because it's made by the same people who are making this. So I'm really torn. On one hand, this seems like potentially a nice refresh for Destiny presented in a different format, i.e. mobile. But on the other hand, this is for the same people who didn't make a great mobile game to begin with. So we'll have to see. Alpha testing is coming out next month. Maybe we'll hear more around that time. We talked about this briefly at the start of the show. Nobuo Uematsu says that Fantasian is his final game project as a composer. However, I'm not saying that like Nobuo Uematsu is the Terry Funk of video game composers or the Ric Flair of video game composers, or think of another wrestler who's retired a zillion times. Nobuo Uematsu has kicked out at 2, saying that the composer is not actually retiring, but it will be his final project as a game composer. Oh my goodness. So, I mean, we'll just read the update, I guess. He clarified his comments and claimed that he's not retiring, but stepping back from video games. I'm going to cut back a bit on my video game music work because I want to have more time to make the music I want to make. It would be difficult for me to take on the entire soundtrack of a video game because the time commitment for composing would be too long, but I'd like to continue to work on jobs such as one new theme song. Now, if you're wondering, what is Fantasian? What is he talking about? Fantasian's coming out on December 5th. It is the kind of enhanced version of the 2021 game Fantasian, which originally came out on Apple Arcade. This was also made in partnership with Final Fantasy creator Hironobu Sakaguchi. I really need to play Fantasian. I have not gotten around to it yet. I should really check it out. The game's out soon, but the work that they did on it, basically, as far as Uematsu is concerned, is going to be his last full project as a composer. Maybe he can start to work on that rap album that we all know he can do. Let's talk Xbox Cloud Gaming. We are cooking through this podcast today. Xbox Cloud Gaming will reportedly let players stream their owned video games soon. Now, these need to be owned on the Xbox platform. It's not like you can stream a PlayStation 5 game on Xbox Cloud Gaming or anything like that. Support for the feature is expected to be offered to Xbox insiders starting in November. The feature was originally supposed to launch in 2022, but then held up due to issues with infrastructure around streaming thousands of games instead of hundreds of games currently available on Xbox Game Pass. So that's the thing. It's like right now, if you have Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, you can stream those games, but you can't stream the games you own. So, for example, I'm trying to think. I own Marvel's The Avengers on Xbox, and I cannot stream that, but I do have what's it called? Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, and any of those games I can stream. So it's not a perfect, one-to-one, but the report is that is going to be happening sooner rather than later. Earlier, Microsoft announced that Xbox Cloud Gaming support for Call of Duty titles Black Ops 6, Modern Warfare 3, and Warzone will be coming as well. So, I usually try to save the what you've been playing GnittWitt segments until the end when appropriate, but I'll talk about this now. I have actually messed around with a lot of Xbox Cloud Gaming as of late. Now, I'll admit that most of my time spent with Xbox Cloud Gaming has been specifically around me playing one game, but I have, with the power of my iPhone 16 Pro, using that for streaming, and my PC. I don't know why I just slapped my PC. It's like, look at this bad boy. It can stream so many video games instead of playing them natively. Anyways, I have messed around with some Xbox Cloud Gaming, and I think it's okay. So here's what's been going on. For the longest time, I have been playing Skate 3, the Xbox 360 game, Skate 3, on my PC through Xbox Cloud Gaming. Now, in fairness, my PC has a hardwired Ethernet cable going into it, so I have pretty consistent, decent internet for it. No problem. However, I do start to notice issues with Xbox Cloud Gaming when we have heavy internet usage, if I'm downloading a game, if I'm doing a lot of internet stuff at the time. I do start to see some noticeable issues with the cloud gaming performance, specifically around video quality, where the video can get a little blurry, it can get a little jittery, stuttery, weird. That's been the biggest problem. I haven't noticed a lot of performance issues with the game so far. The latency is, somewhat noticeable. I'm playing a skateboarding game. I'm not just playing like a heavy input based fighting game, but I have screwed up a couple of tricks in landings and stuff like that here and there due to the latency response of my controller going to the server for the cloud gaming and all of that stuff. So I have struggled a little bit with cloud gaming, but at the end of the day, it allows me to play a game that I don't really have access to on PC without going down the road of 360 emulator, and I really don't want to do that. However, it's been a bit of a different story on mobile, where I find whether it be Wi-Fi connectivity or 5G cellular connectivity, the performance in Xbox cloud gaming on mobile is noticeably worse. A lot longer to load up the game initially. I've had the game drop out on me here and there. I've had way worse video performance issues and latency issues. It's been a worse experience overall. That being said, I have enjoyed a majority of my time with Xbox Cloud Gaming, but I've enjoyed it on my PC, which is a console, or excuse me, a system that I could just play games on with very little issue anyways, which makes me wonder why I'm even bothering with cloud gaming in the first place. I'd be curious to know if people who are using it on like a Samsung TV or something else, or maybe a device that isn't predominantly used for playing video games, would have better luck with the Xbox cloud gaming. Am I like super excited and hopeful about the future of cloud gaming? Not necessarily, because it's not really how I play games. I'd rather play games natively, whatever those games may be, on the device that can run them natively. So for example, I've been messing around with a lot of PlayStation 1 emulators and Super Nintendo emulators and Game Boy Advance emulators and Apple Arcade games and free-to-play games on my iPhone 16 Pro and all of that stuff. And that has been a much smoother experience than trying to get something like Xbox Cloud Gaming running. I will say that the couple of times I tried to play Forza Motorsport on Xbox Cloud streaming instead of playing it natively on my PC was a pretty bad experience, so maybe racing games don't work out super great for it. But either way, Xbox Cloud Gaming is okay, and you'll be able to stream your own games sooner rather than later. Final thing from Microsoft is that they will be streaming their Xbox Partner Preview event on Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, unless you listen to it later, you might have missed the live show, but of course it'll be on YouTube for you to watch. Now you might be wondering, what's going to be there? Currently, it promises new news on upcoming titles from folks over at Remedy, Sega, 505 Games, and more. Hey, maybe we'll find out more about Control 2, Alan Wake DLC, or Max Payne. We'll have to see for ourselves. Let's talk Game Freak. If you don't know Game Freak, they're the people that make Pokemon. The only thing that Game Freak doesn't make that's Pokemon related, that is any note, is Pokemon Go. But Game Freak are pretty much the Pokemon people. They're not the Pokemon Company, which is a separate company, and they're not necessarily Nintendo, but they are the people that make, Pokemon Red, Blue, Green, Black, White, X, Y, Alpha, Beta, whatever the new games are. Gold, Silver. They're the people that make the mainline Pokemon games for the most point. They have had a massive data breach with current, former, and contract employees being affected. Employee info has now started to appear online. Thousands of confidential documents have been shared online related to the franchise and its employees. In a statement published on Sunday, the company claimed that over 2,000 pieces of employee information have been stolen from the company. It acknowledged unauthorized access by a third party, which it said has resulted in the personal information of current, former, and contract employees of the developer appearing online. Other content related to the company and the Pokemon franchise was also stolen and is being circulated online. However, this content isn't referenced in Game Freak's statement. I'm assuming that's because Game Freak cares more about the employees' well-being than the franchise well-being, but I don't know. According to the statement, full names, addresses, email addresses, and phone numbers are part of the compromised data. Game Freak has said that it will contact affected employees where it can. Quote, Those who cannot be contacted contacted individually due to retirement or other reasons will be notified in this announcement, and a contact person will be set up to respond to inquiries regarding this matter. We sincerely apologize for any inconvenience and concern this may have caused, any concerns this may have caused to all concerned. Game Freak claims that the vulnerability that caused the issue has already been rebuilt. Game Freak is one of the 3 companies with a controlling stake in the Pokemon franchise. The developer has also been the primary developer of the main series of titles since they began in the 90s. Game Freak is currently working on multiple games, including Pokemon Legends ZA for Nintendo Switch. Announced earlier this year, the game will be the second Pokemon Legends game following Pokemon Legends Arceus. So if you're wondering who has their fingers in the Pokemon pie, it's Game Freak, it's the Pokemon Company, and it is Nintendo. You know, I don't have a problem with remastered games once they get to be a certain age. So, for example, this game that we're going to talk about here, how old is this game? Before I tell you what it is, I just want to look up how old this game is. So this next game that we're going to talk about is a game that is so old it can legally drink in the United States. This game is old. Does that mean that this game deserves to be remastered? Does it deserve to be remembered in much of a positive way? I don't think so. But here we are. Tomb Raider 4 through 6 remastered have been announced, launching in February. You may remember that Tomb Raider 1 through 3 remastered have also been released. Those came out earlier this year with modern-ish graphics and modern-ish controls. Now, the reason I'm picking on Tomb Raider 4 through 6 is because 4 and 5, you know, they were pretty much running out of steam by 4 and 5. Those were still PS1 games. And by the time they ran out of steam with 4 and 5, like for example, which one is 4 is The Last Revelation, in which Lara Croft uncovers the lost tomb of the Egyptian god Set. Came out in 1999. Tomb Raider Chronicles is 2000, and Tomb Raider Chronicles is a game in which they basically just made a bunch of random levels and slapped it together. The reason why I say that is because Lara Croft is buried in, spoilers for The Last Revelation, Lara Croft is buried in an Egyptian tomb and presumed dead at her memorial. This is the plot of Chronicles. You tell me if they were scraping the bottom of the barrel with this one. Buried in an Egyptian tomb and presumed dead. At her memorial, those closest to her reminisce about the secrets from her past. Travel back and experience Lara's untold adventures, introducing new gameplay mechanics like stealth and tightrope balancing. So basically, they came up with a bunch of random bullshit levels to justify making another game and blast from the past sort of thing. That's not what I want to talk about. But I would argue that once they got to Last Revelation and Chronicles on the PS1, they had run out of steam. That's not what I want to talk about. Tomb Raider, The Angel of Darkness, 2003, the first PS2 game and the big revival of Tomb Raider up until that point, because prior to that, they were making Tomb Raider games like damn near every year. If we go back to the Tomb Raider history for just a moment, Tomb Raider 96, Tomb Raider 2 97, Tomb Raider 3 98, Tomb Raider The Last Revelation 1999, Tomb Raider Chronicles 2000. They were cranking, like, say what you will about Call of Duty, they were cranking out goddamn Tomb Raider games every year. But then they took a break with the Angel of Darkness, but that's also because the Angel of Darkness was like long in development, delayed. Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness is probably the worst Tomb Raider game. And like, it's not not even close. Horrible controls. A weird, like, dark, and I mean, it's called Angel of Darkness, but this like weird, dark, brooding storyline. They move away from anything resembling like Tombs or the rating of Tombs. It's a game that gets really lost in the sauce. It's maybe different, like it, and maybe like the thing that, Tomb Raider needed to really revive itself. Unfortunately, other than the storyline, the graphics and stuff like that, it's a buggy, poorly controlled, awful camera movement, terrible combat system piece of shit. And that was back in 2003 that people were saying that. So can you imagine how well that game has aged now? The reason why I bring all of this up is because while I didn't play, I'll admit, I did not play Tomb Raider 1 through 3 remastered. Criticism of those games did lean towards some of the poor modernization of the controls. So if you're already not doing, an amazing job with those controls, how can you expect to do a good job with the controls when the controls are bad in the first place? So that's kind of where I'm at with this stuff, is like, I'm all for them remastering and re-releasing these old games, even when they're pieces of shit, because in fact, I would argue that piece of shit video games deserve a second chance at life, right? Now, should they like spend like $500 million remaking, Angel of Darkness to be on the level of like a, Shadows of the Tomb Raider and all of the, like that recent trilogy? Probably not, but it deserves a second chance, especially if stuff like the story and the environment is different than what had kind of come before it. I just, I don't see that happening, considering the, controls and stuff like that with the remastered of 1 through 3 were not great. But hey, good news. It's going to be coming out. It's $30 US. It's coming out on Valentine's Day. So hey, you and Lara Croft can get it on Valentine's Day. Tetris Forever. Not to be confused with Duke Nukem Forever. Not that you would confuse Duke Nukem Forever with much of anything other than a steaming turd that you found outside a Burger King dumpster. Tetris Forever has received a November release date. The compilation is coming to PC and consoles next month. And you might be wondering when. That is November 12th. So here's what we got. If you're wondering, hey, what's going on with Tetris? More than 15 playable games from the series will be coming out on that collection. Some of these games are being released outside of Japan for the very first time. So here's what we got. An accurate recreation of the original version on the Electronica 60 computer, the 1988 Famicom version, Tetris 2 and Bomb Bliss, Tetris Battle Gaiden, Hatris, Super Bomb Bliss, Super Bomb Bliss DX, Super Tetris 2 and Bomb Bliss, and Super Tetris 3. It will also feature a brand new game called Tetris Time Warp, where the players jump between game styles throughout the history of the series. Now, not only that, Tetris Forever will feature over an hour of documentary featurettes exploring the lifelong friendship and creative partnership between Tetris creator Alexei Pajitnov and the Tetris company founder Hank Rogers, as they share the extraordinary but true story about Tetris that you never knew. Not to be confused with the Tetris movie that's on Apple TV Plus, which is a dramatized version of real life history, and maybe, while not incredibly accurate, is a fun movie that I recommend. Let's move on from Tetris. Metaphor ReFantazio has sold 1 million units on its first day. The new IP from the Persona creators was released on Friday. It has been an absolute banger for the company so far. In a press release, Sega claims that the newly released Atlas RPG achieved its global cumulative sales of 1 million units, which it says consists of the total number of physical unit shipments and downloadable unit sales. So they're talking total units sold plus the physical copies that have been shipped to retailers, not sold at retailers, but shipped to retailers. When Persona 5 was released in Japan, it sold 500,000 units during its initial month. When the game was later released worldwide, Atlus claimed that at the time that Persona 5 had shipped 1.5 million units during its launch month, which means that Metaphor ReFantazio is bigger than Persona 5, which is super cool to see. Congratulations to everybody at Atlus and Sega. I still need to pick up Metaphor ReFantazio, but I also need to find 100 hours in my life throughout the rest of 2024. You know, I would need to find some more time, is basically what I'm trying to say. I don't know if you're familiar with the history of Disco Elysium, but the company that made it, Zaum, has split off and splintered in many ways, with now 2 Disco Elysium spin-off studios being announced on the same day. This is like if your parents split up and they both showed you their new boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, whatever, on the same day, and you're like, oh man, does this still mean I'm getting 2 Christmases? Does this mean I'm going to get 2 new Disco Elysium games? Probably not, but we'll see. So here's what happened. On Friday morning around 12, former Zaum, that is ZA/UM, that's the name of the studio, I didn't come up with it. The staff announced that the creation of Longdew Games, a studio that's said to be working on a spiritual successor to the acclaimed RPG, but at the same time, another UK-based studio, Dark Math Games, was announced with around 20 former Disco Elysium staff said to be on board creating their own detective RPG named XXX Night Shift. That is XXX space Night Shift, which, boy, that sounds like a wild name. I can't wait to check it out. Now, Longdew Games, which also includes developers who previously worked at Rockstar, Bungie, and Brave at Night, say that it aims to create games that resonate emotionally and intellectually, and that it's here to build a reputation for consistently delivering quality with a focus on depth and narrative integrity. Its first game is being billed as a spiritual successor to Disco Elysium, and Longdew says it explores the delicate interplay between the conscious and the subconscious, the seen and the unseen. And if you've played even 5 minutes of Disco Elysium, you know that that's what that game is pretty much all about. So they're going back to the well, you know, dancing with who brought them and kind of keeping it real with that next game at Longdew Games. The game is described as a psychogeographic RPG with a unique mechanic where every decision reshapes both the world and the characters that inhabit it. Meanwhile, Dark Math's XXX Night Shift claims to deliver a deep single-player role-playing experience with many tools and layers of gameplay, plus a unique companion dynamic which adds more fun and offers different paths to solve cases. The innovative and powerful role-playing system respects your time and trusts your intelligence with seismic choices. It's up to you to decide how your story unfolds and how it ends. There is a trailer for the game. There is, boy, it looks a lot like the Disco Elysium, like talking to yourself sort of thing. The XXX Night, boy, that they guess what? If you like Disco Elysium, they're sure making that same thing, which seems neat. Interesting to see how that turns out for them. Earlier this year, it was reported that Disco Elysium studio Zaum was laying off a quarter of its staff and canceling a standalone expansion for the game. It claimed that this was the studio's 3rd cancellation after a Disco Elysium sequel and a sci-fi game. So forget Zaum. That seems like they have gone to live on a farm somewhere. And if you're looking for the true successor, you're looking at something like Dark Math's game or Longdew's game. However, it's interesting to note, actually, before we wrap the story up, it's interesting to note that Disco Elysium game director Robert Kurvitz and art director Alexander Rostov do not appear to be involved with either new studio. When you buy something digital, you don't really own it. You don't really own it. It doesn't even really own you. It's just a license to use that thing that you bought. There was a California law that was recently signed around consumer protection, focusing on digital purchases. Basically saying that when you sell digital goods to people, you now need to warn them that they are only buying the license to the game and not the game itself at checkout. Steam has implemented that worldwide, as far as I can tell, because I saw it when I was looking it up, despite not being in California. And now they remind you that a purchase of a digital product grants a license for the game on Steam. That's what they say now. While this has always been the case, warnings weren't really there before. And the California governor, Gavin Newsom, signed a new bill that would forbid digital storefronts from using terms like buy unless customers were explicitly warned that they're paying for a license to a game which may expire at any time. It's a quick one. Well, I don't know what you want from me. It's a quick news story. You already know that you don't own the thing that you bought, but now the store will tell you that up front. This is our final news story, and then we'll take a break. This is the final news story. There has been an award-winning documentary that was filmed entirely in Grand Theft Auto Online and is coming to US cinemas. I'll read that to you one more time. There's an award-winning documentary shot entirely in Grand Theft Auto Online, and it is coming to US cinemas. You might be wondering what the name of the documentary is called. It is called... I can't do it without laughing. Hold on, let me compose myself. All right, and scene. The name of the movie is Grand Theft Hamlet, and it is about two actors trying to perform Hamlet in the video game Grand Theft Auto Online. Grand Theft Hamlet was shot during the COVID-19 lockdown and tells the story of two unemployed actors who decided to try staging a performance of Hamlet within Grand Theft Auto Online. Oh, be still my beating heart, but this is like the most like nitwit ass movie I've ever heard. Are you kidding me? We have William Shakespeare and the greatest video game ever made, Grand Theft Auto Online. That's not true. But we have combined the great tastes of Hamlet, William Shakespeare, and Grand Theft Auto Online together. Whoo, that sounds like a banger. This was first reported by The Hollywood Reporter, who reports on all things Hollywood, saying that art house distributor Mubi has now acquired the US cinema rights and the global streaming rights for the documentary. I know, I am trying hard not to laugh at the idea of like Hamlet in Grand Theft Auto Online and also it's a documentary. Man, oh man. Now, this film premiered at the South by Southwest Film Festival earlier this year and won the jury award for documentary feature. A Hollywood Reporter review called the movie innovative, highly amusing, and often touching. The film is set to play in the UK as part of this month's BFI London Film Festival, but all 5 screenings are sold out. It's January 2021. This is the official description. It's January 2021. The UK has entered its 3rd lockdown and all theaters remain closed. For actors Sam and Mark, the future looks bleak. As the pandemic drags on, Mark, who lives alone, is increasingly socially isolated, while Sam is panicking about how he's going to support his family. They channel their midlife frustrations by immersing their avatars in the horrifically violent yet beautifully rendered world of Grand Theft Auto Online. They steal cars and shoot strangers and also find moments of calm reflection walking through meadows of wildflowers. In one gaming session, they stumble across a theater and have an idea. Why not stage Hamlet inside the game? While there are several reasons why not, chiefly that most people in the game are intent on murderous destruction, not polite appreciation of a theatrical production. I have to see this movie. I don't like, what is it going to take? Like, there's no price I will There's no price that I will not pay to watch Grand Theft Hamlet. How do I do this? How do I buy it? I need to, man. Oh, I just want to watch Grand Theft Hamlet. The website doesn't give me any information to go off of. I'll tell you what, the moment I find out, you will know. I will scream it from the rooftops. All right. That's going to do it for the news. I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the games that I've been playing. Stick around. We will be right back. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm still GnittWitt. We're still talking video games. Ain't nothing changed. I want to talk about Final Fantasy 16. I continue to chip away at Final Fantasy 16. I've also put more time into Final Fantasy 16 now that I've had more of an opportunity to play it since I finished the Metaphor ReFantazio demo. And I'm just going to pull up my stats around Final Fantasy 16. I want to make sure I get this right. I'm about 14 and a half hours into Final Fantasy 16. My understanding is that if you kind of mainline it, you're looking at about 35, 40-ish hours. I did spend a decent amount of time farting around, fighting monsters in the world, doing some side quests. I think I'm kind of over that now. I'm going to primarily focus on, that main story. But here's my problem. My problem is that Final Fantasy 16 has some pretty bad pacing at times. I'm not saying it's like completely horribly paced left, right, and center. The problem I'm running into with Final Fantasy 16 is that there seems to be these times where a big boss battle happens, a big, huge story moment occurs, all this stuff. And I get it, right? You can't just have a game escalating craziness over 40 hours. It just becomes unstable. It becomes unsustainable. And also people get tired because everything's just ramping up in this ridiculous, crazy way. Some games are better at, producing rising action that genuinely feels like it's nonstop. You're going up that roller coaster, sort of experience. But unfortunately, it seems like in the case of Final Fantasy 16, at least where I'm at in the story, when I feel like I've hit a new story high, it isn't too long before I feel like I've hit a new story low. Damning thing to say, I know, but man, I'm surprised at just what that story has you do and how inconsequential some moments of it feel like. So I'll try to give you an example. There are side quests in the game, right? And the side quests are very easy. Go talk to this person, go do this, go collect this, go fight 5 monsters, come back, talk to me. And once you've done that, they will give you a little bit of a reward and some experience, and away you go, right? They're pretty dumb side quests, but if you wanted to squeeze everything out of the game and make yourself as powerful as possible, then yeah, you can go ahead and do that. Now, there are also parts of the world that you can go run around in where you can just fight monsters that are just out and about. So if you're hunting for treasures and treasure and collectibles and trying to fight as many monsters as you can also do that. So there is already a decent amount of side stuff that you can do in the game, right? Like, you might not be able to like run from one end of the map to the other, depending on what level you're in, without fighting monsters. Some areas are more open than others. Some are very narrow and very focused, almost like Uncharted-esque, like I mentioned in the past. That all being said, at least you know that that stuff is kind of optional. And if you want to go help this guy who lost a thing and whoops, he lost that thing in a place where a bunch of monsters are hanging out. So in order to get the thing, you got to go walk over to where he dropped it last, which is not where you met him. Fight the monsters, go back and give it to him. Okay, fine. He'll give you a thing for your troubles. But the problem I'm running into is that there's at least one point in the story where I'm at right now where I'm trying to find a missing person. At least it seems like it's a missing person's case. I have never met this missing person before. And I've also never met the people that are giving me the quest to go find the missing person. So I'm just meeting all these inconsequential side characters on my path to helping this one side character that will allow me to do. It's all very unclear. It's all very vague, at least right now. Maybe there'll be a big story reveal once I've done it. I don't know. But it's not the first time I feel like this sort of side quest padding has been applied to the main story, unfortunately. And that's kind of where I'm at with Final Fantasy 16. I was pretty eager to try to finish it up before Call of Duty Black Ops 6 comes out. But now I'm starting to think that maybe I should just take my time with that game because it's already going to slow down at points due to the pacing problems, which is going to make it more frustrating to try to grind through and like mainline as quick as possible, knowing that I'm going to be doing stuff that I don't really care about, at least where I'm at in the story. That could all change. In the main story, could just pick up and kick into gear that like it will just blow my socks off, blow my wig back if I wanted to blow my wig off, I guess I should say, assuming I was ashamed of being bald. But yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like it has lost its pace in a way that I wasn't expecting. A problem that kind of exists in Final Fantasy VII, but I don't feel like has the same like stopping power that I feel like Final Fantasy 16 has. I really feel like it is slowed down to a crawl in some specific areas for a short period of time. Is it a majority of the game? Absolutely not. Like majority of that game has been, you know, balls out, crazy monster fighting, you know, blowing shit up sort of fantasy action stuff. Like it's been that game, right? If you played the demo, it still stays pretty true to what that demo presented with more to it. But I'm a little disappointed in the pacing of the story. I really am. I'm going to keep playing it. I'll let you know if anything changes. Of course, you will be the first to know. But right now, I feel like Final Fantasy 16 got some pacing problems. Let's talk Diablo 4. If you go over to bigredbarrel.com, that is bigredbarrel.com, you will find an article with the title, "I Would Let Diablo 4 Ruin My Life If It Could," written by yours truly. I decided to take it upon myself to write about Diablo 4 and kind of my feelings on the game a year later. It's not a review of the game. It's more of a check-in and also more of a... It's more about me explaining how I felt about that game going into it, what my expectations were, and what I feel like I've gotten out of the game so far. And here's what I'm going to say about Diablo 4. I think Diablo 4 is a really good game. I think they've done some good work to improve on the game. It is better than it's ever been. Unfortunately, I feel like as a multiplayer online only live service game, it's really lacking. Now, if you're somebody who just wants to play through the Diablo 4 story, see all the crazy cutscenes, find out about the lady and her arms splitting open and all that stuff, hey, guess what? They deliver that for you. They do it. You know, you can spend as much time or as little time as you want leveling up your character, collecting loot, doing all that stuff while seeing the story. That is not my problem with the game. My problem with the game is that it doesn't really do a good job of incentivizing you to play it with the seasonal content in mind. Let me explain. So we've talked about, you know, you might not play a lot of live service games, but you're familiar with the concept of seasons, right? You know, hey, from January 1st to March 31st, we're going to run this season and we're going to have this type of content and this battle pass and all this stuff that you can play for a limited time, right? Diablo 4 has all of that stuff too. The timelines might be different, but it has all of that stuff too. The problem with Diablo 4 is that in order to play through that seasonal content, you need to make a whole new character, and you can only play that content with your seasonal character for that duration. Once that season has expired and they've moved on to the next season, that character becomes a regular character which will not be able to play next season's content. And the problem I have is that I'm fairly casual in the way that I play Diablo 4. I pick it up here and there, mess around, click on some skeletons until they explode, get a new hat, get some new levels and abilities, and away I go, right? But I've also put a decent amount of time into Diablo 4. The problem that I've run into is I've put a decent amount of time into Diablo 4 on my main character. I have a sorcerer that I've put over 100 hours into. And the reason why I was able to get 100 hours into it is because I've ignored all of the additional seasonal content that they've done and purely just done the content that is in the base game, whether that be the side quests or the collectibles or the optional dungeons or, you know, so on and so forth, right? So I've never actually, you know, grinded out a battle pass or bought a battle pass or even bought cosmetics. Like, I've just not engaged with that game on that sort of live service level, because it seems like the live service part of that game is catering to the hardest of the hardcores, people that are going to play through the game multiple times with different characters, maybe even recreating characters. That's not for me. The way I plan on playing Diablo 4 is I would eventually like to get every character class to max level, but I want to do so at my own pace, which means I don't want to spend 3 weeks grinding out my barbarian character class to the max level, while also doing it in time with the seasonal battle pass and whatever content comes with it. I want to be able to take a half finished barbarian into that seasonal content, experience that seasonal content the way I want to, and then not worry about having to miss out the next time seasonal updates come around. Now you might be thinking, well, GnittWitt, big fucking whoop, who cares? Diablo 4 is one of the only games that does it this way. Destiny 2, I've put like 300 hours into Destiny 2. Majority of that time was spent playing one character that I continued to work on, continued to tinker with and upgrade and improve and all that stuff. But I also got to do it while playing through all the new seasonal content, buying the battle passes, upgrading the battle pass to max level, getting all those perks and rewards, never having to worry about making a new character. So I have this like emotional attachment to my Destiny 2 Titan, the way that I would never quite be able to do in Diablo 4, because I would need to constantly switch characters in order to get the most out of the seasonal content. I have an emotional attachment to my sorcerer because I spent a lot of time playing through with my sorcerer. But the way that Diablo 4 encourages you to play through seasonal content, it seems like you shouldn't care about your seasonal characters at all. And I just find that to be really disappointing, because the game is really good. I want to play more of it. It's actually kind of come up a little bit more in the last couple of weeks because of the expansion, but also based on the way the game kind of encourages people to play it, I don't even have that much interest at the moment in buying the expansion, because I haven't seen all of the content that's available in Diablo 4 yet. If I had ranked up every character class or something like that, then yeah, you know, you buy the new expansion, which comes with the additional story about the lady in the boat with her weird arm problem and the evil crystal or whatever is going on in the story. You also get a new world to explore. You also get a new character class, which is only available in the expansion. There are plenty of things for me to do. I just feel like, you know, every time I do it, Diablo 4 is weirdly pushing me away or pushing me to play the game in a way that I just don't want to. So head on over to bigredbarrel.com. Check out that article by me. Again, that is the article titled "I Would Let Diablo 4 Ruin My Life If It Could." And you can get a little more details into kind of what I'm talking about. But also, I think Diablo 4 is a great game. I think there's a lot of fun to be had in that game, even with the base level of content that's available. And then all the different character classes, once you find one that works for you, maybe you'll experiment and be like, oh, I really like the Necromancer. Let's try the Barbarian or the Sorcerer or whatever. So I'm probably going to keep chipping away at Diablo 4 in the meantime, but I'm probably never going to get into it the way that I did something like Destiny until they seriously change the way seasonal structure and content works in that game. Final thing that I want to talk about is I continue to mess around with the GameSir. Grab it over here. That is the GameSir G8 Plus. This is a Bluetooth controller. It also has a shell kind of built into it to fit something like your iPhone. And I've been playing with it. I really like it. I was laying in bed and it was a tad heavy, in my opinion. It was a little heavy. But maybe it's just because I have my phone in it or something. I don't know. But regardless, I've been playing a decent amount of PlayStation 1 emulators, playing a ton of Thrasher, Skate and Destroy, playing a ton of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 on there as well, and I've been really enjoying it. I need to probably refresh and manage some of the PS1 emulator games I have on here, but I gotta say, overall, I'm pretty happy with the GameSurge G8 Plus. You know, I bought it for about $80. It ranges about $100-ish bucks. If you're looking for something that will do holding your phone and also a regular Bluetooth controller, if you want to play it on like an iPad or something, it also, I think, supports Switch. If you want to use it for Nintendo Switch purposes, it's a lot of fun. I just need to refresh some of my PlayStation 1 game emulators. I also have some Super Nintendo, and I also have some Game Boy Advance games I need to start playing on my iPhone emulator, on my iPhone through emulation as well. I will say the switch between the button layout on the Super Nintendo controller and the PlayStation is different enough that I've had to remap some of the controls on the Super Nintendo emulator because I want it to more properly resemble what is on the PlayStation. It means that I have to make some weird choices here and there about controls, but I've been able to get it to work. I was playing a little bit of Super Mario World on Super Nintendo on my emulator, which has been a lot of fun. I also have a lot of RPGs. Like I have a bunch of Final Fantasy games, Final Fantasy Tactics 7, 9. I also have Legend of Dragoon. So I got some stuff on PS1 that I need to start playing through, but those are more like, you know, turn-based JRPGs. I won't have to worry too much about like, you know, proper, precise, you know, tight controls and stuff like that. Speaking of like, you know, precise controls, I did play a little bit of Call of Duty on my phone. That works out okay. It's maybe not my ideal way of playing Call of Duty, but you can definitely swing it on a phone, and it definitely works a hell of a lot better than using the touchscreen controls on phone. So for that, I say thumbs up for the GameSurge G8 Plus. I'm liking it. It's all right. I don't love its inability to switch between multiple devices, so I always have to like remove the Bluetooth device from my device that I want to use it on and then re-add it to play it, because it'll always remember the last device that you use and doesn't make it easy to switch. And I don't know, maybe there's a way to do it. I haven't figured it out, but it's an all right device. It charges via USB-C. I appreciate that because my phone now has USB-C, and so does my iPad. USB-C is the future, or that's what they tell me anyways. So yeah, I gotta say positive feelings, positive vibes all around for gaming. I will say a little down on the plot of Final Fantasy 16, more particularly the pace of that game. But you know what? It's not the end of the world. It is what it is. Oh, hey, look at that. Donut County is coming out on Game Pass. Donut County is a great. Hey, you should play Donut County. I'm just getting distracted by the other shit that's going on. And then we have Call of Duty. Call of Duty is going to be out next week. Call of Duty's out next week. Holy shit. Thursday, 9 p.m. So we're not going to be talking about Call of Duty next week. We'll talk about it the week after, which means if you're wondering what's going on with the Glitch Report podcast, we're going to do the show every Wednesday morning, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I will be better about getting there on time, ready to go. But for the next couple of weeks, here's what you can expect. Next week, we're going to talk news. It's going to be like a normal show, right? The week after that, we'll do a huge deep dive into Call of Duty Black Ops 6. The week after that, we will do a huge deep dive into Dragon Age the Veilguard, because Dragon Age the Veilguard is out on the 31st. That's Halloween. So next week, regular, show, no problem. The week after that, a huge amount of coverage for Call of Duty Black Ops 6. And then the week after that, Dragon Age the Veilguard all day, all night. Really excited for both of those games. Fingers crossed that they're good. I have, if I'm a betting man, I have a feeling that Black Ops 6 will turn out just all right based on my experience with the beta. Dragon Age is a little bit more of an anomaly, an unknown entity at this point. The game was in development for a really long time. We'll see if your friends and mine at BioWare can stick the landing. Until then, enjoy all of the games that you possibly can play. I have been GnittWitt. You can find everything that I do over on my Linktree. That's linktree.com/GnittWitt, GnittWitt, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, all of that good stuff. in one convenient location. Not only that, but you can also find links to every article, preview, review that I have written for Big Red Barrel, or you can head on over to bigredbarrel.com. One more time for the people in the back. bigredbarrel.com. I have been GnittWitt. This has been Glitch Report. We'll see you all next week. Take it easy.